Hello, this is Yaakov Kronenberg from Jerusalem, and tonight we'll be doing another class in the series of classes on Virgo ascendant and Mercury, the ruling planet in the different houses. Tonight we'll be talking about Mercury in the different signs and the different houses, and tonight we'll be talking about Mercury in the sign of Taurus, which usually turns out to be a ninth house influence. When you do that right away, you see, first of all, that both elements are earthy, right? The ascendant is in Virgo, earth, and Mercury itself is in Taurus, an earth sign. So the person has to be very, very practical, very down to earth, both feet on the ground, and very practical. Always the Virgo is very practical, and the Virgo wants to fulfill itself through ninth house affairs. Right, ninth house is, as we always talk about, it's the house of religion, philosophy, higher education, law, travel, things like that. So a person who has that indication is very interested in the mind, right, and they're very interested in very interested in all intellectual matters, very interested in the affairs of higher education and religion and things like that. When you got Mercury in Taurus, it's specifically Taurus. Remember, is a very it's connected with Venus, so there's going to be an interest also in art and beauty and things like that. When you have Mercury in Taurus in the ninth. So the mind is going to go more towards, say, well, on one hand it could be very business-like, right? Because Taurus rules business, a person who studies business. On the other hand, it could be someone who's very interested in the arts, because it's a Venusian sign. So you have to look at other factors in the chart to decide, say, which area of interest in specifically it will be. But you can get an idea. You have to take all the signs together. You take Mercury, and you take the ninth house, and you take Taurus, and you put that all together, right? And then you look at also the dispositive, where Venus is in the chart, and you get more of an idea of what the person is interested in. But always a person where there's going to have that in the ninth house is going to be a strong idea. A strong indication for the higher knowledge. There are people that are interested in the higher knowledge and travel and getting broad horizons. That would be the word I would use best. Mind expansion. They're interested in things like that, expanding their knowledge, expanding their mind, exploring, all sorts of things like that. Tonight I want to do a horoscope, a little bit to illustrate this. We're going to do the horoscope of a very famous woman. At least in America she was very famous. Her husband was once the President of the United States. I think when Richard Nixon resigned, he was the vice president, and he became the president. His name was Gerald Ford, and his wife was named Betty Ford, and she was much more popular than him. She was a very outspoken lady, right? We see her a very outspoken lady, and the Mercury is so strong there in her chart. And also she had Jupiter. She has Jupiter almost exactly on the 10th house cusp in Gemini. So she's very, very outspoken, loves to talk, right? People who have Jupiter, the planet of expansion, in the sign of Gemini, speech, they just love to speak and talk and do interviews and whatever. Any chance they get to speak, they love it. Right, and so Jupiter is also connected with her ruling planet, because Jupiter is in the sign of Mercury. So it's going to add to Mercury's outspokenness. But one problem here, if you look at the chart, for example, you see unfortunately, she's got Saturn exactly square to the Mars. Saturn exactly square to the Mercury. So that's going to be a debilitating influence, right? That's what's called a hindrance, right? Obstacle. Planet, it's an obstacle. It makes an obstruction. In other words, a lot of people say that if you have like Mercury, there's a strong need for higher education. When you get that square there, exact square from Saturn, so Saturn can take away that it can prevent the person getting the higher education. And she was like that. She went to art school, she went to drama school, art school, she wanted to be an actress or a dancer, and there was family trouble. The family, I guess, got her out of it. Anyway, her education was interrupted. So you see that right away in her chart when you see that very tight Mars square to Mercury, and also she has Neptune also in not as tight of a square, but she has Neptune conjunct Saturn, and also a very, very tight square with Mercury. So again, she's gonna, when you ever have Neptune strong in charts, especially, well, I don't want to say that, but in any case, when you have Neptune always very strong in a chart, there's always the fear of alcoholism and drug addiction and things like that. And especially when the Neptune is in the 12th house and conjunct Saturn, like she had. She has Neptune and Neptune conjunct Saturn in Leo in the 12th house. The 12th house of which is ill health, long-term health problems. And so she had Neptune. When you have Neptune square Saturn, it can make very, very it's the sign. My teacher used to say it's the conjunction of the neurotic. Like neurotic people have it. Saturn is the person's, right, the thing that holds the person together. That's Saturn. What's the most important thing? When you have Neptune together, Neptune is always dissolving it. So the person doesn't have that yesod, the base that he really needs to build a life. Because there's always dissolving on him. And both of them are exactly square to Mercury. So it must have given her a tremendous, especially the Saturn square to Mercury, must have given her a lot of anxiety, a lot of worry, things like that, right? Mercury in Taurus is one's financial security, and I guess she probably felt that she felt very insecure, let's put it that way, when you have Saturn square it and Neptune, so she must have felt very anxious, a lot of worry, she was very neurotic, basically, and so she worked a lot on that, and maybe to a degree overcame it, and she eventually started a very famous clinic. I think it was called the Betty Ford Clinic for substance abuse, to help people deal with problems like that. She was very open about it, right? You see that Jupiter on the top of the chart in Gemini. And they say she would talk about anything, she had her opinions on everything, and so you see it from there, that especially that's a very difficult combination, but it's still the Mercury is trying to the ascendant, so she was very, very bright, very intelligent, right, Virgo, mental sign, trying to the Mercury. And how did she marry the first? Right, she was actually divorced. She married someone first. She was divorced. If you look, she has that tight Venus-Uranus, which always indicates usually a first marriage. That's a lot of times is just quick and for all the wrong reasons. And the second marriage, she married a lawyer. Right, which is 9th house indications. Law interests her. Right. And her 7th house has the sun in Aries in exaltation. Don't think just because the sun is in Aries in exaltation in the house of marriage, but you're going to be the first lady. 1 out of 12, let's say, well, if for the exaltation, 1 out of 144 people will have that combination, but you still have to see more, right? She also had Mars exactly on the ascendant, so the sun goes to her ascendant, and it brought her a lot of fame, right? Because it's disposited by Mars, and Mars on the ascendant, and so she herself became very famous. And I think that's enough for tonight, and I thank everybody for listening.